So I'm going to tell you why it's important for you to think of us when you think of the many things that we do, printing being one of them, freight being a big part of it. And I want to explain a little bit about I'll talk about freight first, or about shipping first. There's a reason to come to us. If you go to a UPS store, FedEx, Kinko's, the post office, you're walking in there already committed to FedEx, UPS, post office. You're already committed to that, not knowing maybe that there's so many other choices out there available to you as far as shipping. But more important, that each one of those have a niche in their respective areas where they ship that makes them valuable, but also there are areas you don't want to use it. You don't want to use UPS in South America. You don't want to use UPS in Europe, or excuse me, in Asia. DHL plays in a lot of those different places. Different parts of the country, if you're shipping to a place that has a really small little town, the mail might take a long time to get there. Even in this country, it might still take a long time to get there. So you might consider that. Certain areas of the country, the fact that the FedEx has a lot fewer trucks than UPS, you might get better service as far as timing goes that way. As far as them competing with one another, usually pretty good. But right now we're seeing some challenges, which is interesting. I make a lot of boxes. I ship a lot of small parcels and large parcels. And I think this is endemic to UPS right now, has been for a while, but I shipped 27 boxes to Southern Florida for a lady that moved out there, and most of everything she had was already boxed up, ready to go. Tight boxes, which is important, but a lot of unprotected items inside. So these 27 boxes, I shipped most of them UPS, and a small portion, they did them in bunches, small portion were done by FedEx. Of the 27, 9 were returned to. And the reason was she was aware of this new complex that she went into. And she goes, "There's no apartment units yet. Just send it to my name in that complex," which we did. And it turns out they did have apartments once they got there, but FedEx handled it properly by calling ahead to those units and saying, "Where is Mrs. Garada's unit?" And they delivered it. All of theirs made it. UPS decided to walk up those steps and take the elevator or whatever to find a place to park in that unit, not bother. They just took it back and didn't return it.
So silly.
Yeah, it was really a shame. So 9 of them came back, and of those 9, 2 of them were ones I packed from scratch because they were televisions and computers. So I packed those up and built the boxes myself. The rest of them were the way that she packed them, and I made sure they were tight, which is important. They came back, and every one of them looked like they'd been kicked off the back of the truck. I mean that literally, not figuratively, because they're all smashed up and the boxes were compressed and everything. Mine, kicked off the back of the truck, is okay because I expect things to happen that shouldn't happen. And they came back exactly like I said, realizing 2 trips all the way across the country. So I put hers in new boxes, all 9 of hers, all 7 of the other ones, and they made it back there. But the way UPS handled that is my concern, and it's causing me to use them differently now, especially during the season because of that. So I've seen that in other parts of the country, seen losing things, not trackable. And this is just, I don't think this is a long-term problem because UPS in the past has been one of the best. In 2001 and 2002, I was the biggest shipper out of all of Orange County. And I'm on the preferred list, and there's no other mail center that's on a preferred list. It's all set aside for some of the bigger companies. So I'm used to using UPS and I like them, but right now I don't use them as much. Yes. Doesn't mean that they're not good in their own areas, but I find FedEx Ground seems to be working better for that. So, but things change, and that will change because they're much bigger than FedEx, so they will come around and make things right eventually. So the reasons, like I said before, you come to us because we can tell you all those different carriers. We can tell you, okay, that part of the world is probably pretty good to go this way. You don't, like I said, you don't want to send any UPS to Europe. You don't want to send things by mail to a lot of the countries around the world because they're turned over to their local mail system. And you might as well just kick those out the door because it's going to say stealman.
Yes, steal me. You're going to get stolen.
So there's a lot of countries around the world you don't, in fact, England is one of them. You don't want to turn it over to their mail system. You want to keep it all the way to the end user, so to speak. Keep it FedEx, DHL, UPS, when you can. Or there's some other carriers, especially we have other carriers in Mexico. So that's kind of what the situation is there. I want you to think of that when you next time you're walking down to that UPS store, that FedEx office, Kinko's, or going to the mail post office. If something's really large, it's going to be a lot cheaper to do anything but USPS too. And don't think that the flat rate's a good deal. If you're going to put your rock collection in it, it's fine because the weight is already considered. But if you're going to ship some pillows by flat rate, it's better off just sending it priority or another way, skip the flat rate. It's their biggest money maker other than commemorative stamps like Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and so on. They make a ton of money on that because nobody ever uses them, they just buy them. Okay, so that's why you should use us. I'm going to get into printing a little bit now also, but...
Question on mailing.
Sure.
So if we have to send something to England or just international, do you figure out what the duties would be or tariffs or how do we?
It's interesting. If you have 3 customs agents sitting there in Canada waiting for your packages to come across, each one of them will have a different rate for the customs fees. So you don't want to prepay that. You can't even put their credit card in the system to have that prepaid. You need to handle it once they get the package, whether the person on the receiving end is willing to pay it. And if they are, then they can be reimbursed by the sender. But you can't pay it for them, and you shouldn't.
So if we have a customer and we want to send it international and we want to pick it all up, basically it gets sent there and we wait until a phone call to us to see how much it is, and then
It won't come from the government. It'll come from
the mail.
It'll come from the receiver. It'll be stopped.
Oh, okay.
You can't get this until we get paid. And then
Exactly.
you get involved.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm printing. Printing is going pretty well now. One thing I'm doing is there's a company up on Hathaway Drive up there in the industrial area of Santa Ana off of McFadden. They have a little about 2,000 square foot finishing letterpress shop that we're going to pick up. The guy wants out of it. He's not able to sell the equipment. The equipment is in fantastic shape. He keeps it oiled, keeps them cleaned, oiled. It's only about 2,000 square feet. So 2 other buddies and I are going to pick up this shop, pretty much take care of all our finishing needs. So that'll be quite handy. The guy that works there for him works about 30 hours a week. All the numbers seem to play out for us okay, and take care of all of our finishing needs, which is a big part of it, because I don't have finishing equipment. I have a little bit of finishing equipment, hydraulic cutters and things like that, sorters, but not enough, especially for like letterpress work. So, our printing is already enhanced, and now I have a way to make the finishing part of it better. Any questions on any of this?
Describe the finishing process.
Okay, so once you print it, depending on how it's done, it needs to be properly cut. You can't cut it until you have it stitched, whether it's how you're binding it, whether you're going to use a staple, whether you're going to do some type of heat, or whether you're just going to maybe put a corner shape. All that's considered before you cut it, because you want to make sure it's lined up properly. Die cutting, if you have a special die cut out of a business card or door hangers, things like that. That's a letterpress work. Variable data printing.
So all of that, you won't have to outsource.
A lot of it I already do, but it takes me longer to do it in my shop than it will in that shop.
Okay.
That'll help. Anyone else? Thank you very much.
All right.